Rithoff Omega 666. Hey Spyro. I noticed you took my suggestion for Discord. Smiley face. Spyrokid77666. Hey Omega LOL. Yes I did. We'll begin soon. Rithoff Omega 666. No worries. Take your time. Smiley face.
This is CNN.
Hey guys, what's going on? Spyro here, and today we are starting a new playthrough called Our Life Beginning and Always Derek Route Part 1. How are all of you today? I am doing pretty good. We'll start that in just a moment, but first we've got to talk about Hurricane Ian, which is no longer a hurricane, but a tropical storm, a post-tropical storm that has made landfall
Omega
in...
666. No DQ11 today?
Probably not, because we've got a new game that's come out that I'm very excited to play. I'll get to that in a moment, but first I have to talk about Hurricane Ian that has made landfall in the Carolinas as a Category 1 and is now a tropical storm, a post-tropical cyclone Ian. This is the latest update from the National Hurricane Center. Ian becomes a post-tropical storm, but the dangerous storm surge, flash flooding, and a high wind threat continues. It's about 70 miles per hour right now. Minimum pressure is at 982 millibars. And this is the latest that they have on the track here. The center of the hurricane is just inland here. And it's supposed to have winds down below 39 miles per hour by the time it reaches this area of the States. Currently 78 miles per hour, moving quickly at 15 miles per hour north. There are currently tropical storm warnings in effect for the coastline here. And is there anything else to note? That's pretty much all there is to note. No doubt that they're getting some substantial damage and whatever for tropical storm stuff, so we'll keep an eye on that. Next, we'll take a look at the relative catastrophic devastation that has hit the west coast of Florida. This is the headline. Storm Ian lashes South Carolina as hard-hit Florida starts rebuilding, which could take years. U.S. National Guard troops are positioned in South Carolina to help with rescues and the aftermath. A revived Hurricane Ian battered coastal South Carolina on Friday, ripping apart piers and filling neighborhoods with calf-high water after the deadly storm caused catastrophic damage in Florida and trapped thousands in their homes. Ian's center came ashore near Georgetown with much weaker winds than when it crossed Florida's Gulf Coast on Wednesday as one of the strongest storms to ever hit the U.S. As it moved across South Carolina, Ian dropped from a hurricane to a post-tropical cyclone. Sheets of rain whipped trees and power lines and left many areas on Charleston's downtown peninsula underwater. A popular river in the beach community of Pawleys Island collapsed and floated away. In Myrtle Beach, waves pushed against the boardwalk tourist area. Ian left a broad swath of destruction after it came ashore Wednesday on Florida's Gulf Coast as one of the strongest storms ever to hit the U.S. The storm flooded areas on both Florida's coasts, tore homes from their slabs, demolished beachfront businesses, and left them more than 2 million people without power. At least 9 people were confirmed dead in the state, a number that was likely to increase as officials confirm more deaths and continue searching for people. Rescue crews piloted boats and waded through the streets Thursday to save thousands of people trapped amid flooded homes and shattered buildings. And keep in mind, about 1 million people, I believe, had to evacuate the state. And let's take a look at a video report, an aerial view of Ian's destructive path.
One of the most disastrous storms in Florida in years is now heading for the Carolinas.
It's headed this way, and I don't know, we're going to hunker down here.
There is devastation in the storm's wake across Florida. Communities are in ruins, others cut off. Right now, Ian is over the Atlantic, but expected to roar ashore with new strength later today. Millions of people in Florida, North Carolina, South Carolina, and Georgia are under storm warnings this hour. In Florida, more than 2 million still have no power, and the governor says hundreds of rescues are being carried out.
The most significant damage that I saw was on Fort Myers Beach. Some of the homes were wiped out, and some of it was just concrete slabs. There have been more than 700 confirmed rescues, and there's likely many more than that.
This is a look at another of the hard-hit areas, Sanibel Island, just north of Naples. As we reported yesterday, the causeway that links it to the mainland, it's wrecked. A focus for rescue operations right now as well. As search crews go home to home, officials warn storm victims will be found. There are first reports on the number of dead. They vary in terms of numbers. No confirmed totals have come from officials yet. But we will be bringing you all of the new details as we get them over the next 4 hours. You're looking here at pictures here as people pick up the pieces in the aftermath of Hurricane Ian. People assessing the damage. Those rescue efforts continue, as I said, and we're going to bring you live reporting from Florida later on this hour, in fact, in just about 15 minutes.
This is CBC News Network coverage from Canada.
Is also in the state, and he's been traveling up and down the west coast, where the storm had its greatest impact. This morning, he looks at the devastation.
The cleanup continues in Florida. Emergency crews out on the streets again. Joe Biden promising federal funds to help get whatever needs to be done accomplished. But make no mistake, this is not a matter of days, weeks, or months, but likely years before Florida will be put anywhere close back to normal again. We're in Sarasota because we want to take a look at this very large tree as a kind of micro example of the force of Ian as it hit. It didn't just have branches broken, but the force of that hurricane uprooted this monster-sized tree. Again, just to give you a sense of the force of that storm. I want to tell you a couple of stories about things we saw. We went to a place called Punta Garda, which is a small town just south of here, about 20,000 people, completely without power. We drove in, the streets were just littered with snapped trees, broken windows, downed power lines, and people out cleaning in their yards, chopping trees with chainsaws, etc., who thought they dodged a bullet because they were anticipating that surge that we heard so much about. They were expecting 2, 3, maybe 4 meters of water and effectively got none. And they felt very good about that. But they got the high winds and they paid the price for that. The cleanup there continues as well. Just north of there, a place called Northport, they got the water surge, they got the rainwater, they got flooding. We met a fellow who had waded through the water to get to people stranded on the other side of the water who couldn't get out themselves. His girlfriend and her mother lived there. They waited out the storm there. He went to take supplies for them there, said they are relieved it is over, but they said, I said, what was it like during the hurricane? And he said that his girlfriend said it was like the sound of a tornado outside for 4 straight hours. Terrifying. She's relieved it's over, but still worried about her fate, stuck on the other side of this water where the flooding has risen to a level where they can't get out. Lots of work to do in Florida. Again, the cleanup continues today, but it is a massive project still ahead. Paul Hunter, CBC News, Sarasota.
Now, let's continue on. This Florida Governor Ron DeSantis said rescue crews have gone door to door to more than 3,000 homes in the hardest hit areas. There's really been a Herculean effort, he said Friday during a news conference in Tallahassee. Climate change added at least 10% more rain to Hurricane Ian, according to a study prepared immediately after the storm, said its co-author, climate scientist Michael Weiner of the Lawrence Berkeley National Laboratory. Among those killed were an 80-year-old woman and a 94-year-old man who relied on oxygen machines that stopped working amid power outages, as well as a 67-year-old man who was waiting to be rescued died after falling into rising water inside his home, authorities said. And this is another video where Florida officials says Ian cleanups could take years. Aerial footage. Oh wait, this is aerial footage from Florida showing the destruction left behind. Yeah, I suppose that's what happens when you're so close to the water. There is a risk of hurricanes. Strong storms be felt by these warm waters that'll just land into these areas. Sanibel Island, Florida. I don't know if you can see, but what is this? And you can see flooded areas in Iona, Florida. Yeah, so much water there. There was a headline that said this could be $68 billion in damages for the entire destruction that this caused. Punta Gorda, Florida. I think you could see all the leaves going a certain direction. That's how blown off it was. There's high winds going up to 250 kilometers per hour, 150 miles per hour wind at most. I'm not sure if it was exactly in these areas, but that was the most that the hurricane had. Oh yeah, so that was 2 days after Hurricane Ian ripped through Florida's Gulf Coast. Overhead footage shows the destruction left behind. Officials feared the death toll could rise substantially, given the wide territory swamped by the storm. Florida Division of Emergency Management Director Kevin Guthrie said responders have focused so far on hasty searches aimed at emergency rescues and initial assessments, which will be followed by 2 additional waves of searches. Initial responders who came across possible remains are leaving them without confirming, he said Friday, describing as an example the case of a submerged home. The water was up over the rooftop, right, but we had a Coast Guard rescue swimmer swim down into it, and he could identify that it appeared to be human remains. We do not know exactly how many, Guthrie said. And years to rebuild. Desperate to locate and rescue their loved ones, social media users shared phone numbers, addresses, and photos of their family members and friends online for anyone who can check on them. Orlando residents returned to flooded homes Friday, rolling up their pants to wade through muddy, knee-high water in their streets. Franz Araman Rodriguez dropped off ice, bottled water, and hot coffee at the entrance to his subdivision, where 10 of the 50 homes were flooded and the road looked like a lake. He had no power or food at his house, and his car was trapped by the water. There's water everywhere, Rodriguez said. The situation here is pretty bad. This is a photo of university students evacuating an apartment complex that was totally flooded by Ian in Orlando, Florida on Friday. From the Associated Press, Jane Rocks. University of Central Florida students living at an apartment complex near the Orlando campus arrived to retrieve possessions from the waterlogged units. Deandra Smith, a nursing student who was asleep when others evacuated and stayed in her third-floor apartment with her dog. Other students helped get her to dry land Friday by pushing her through the flooded parking lot on a pontoon. She wasn't sure if she should go back to her parents' home in South Florida or find a shelter so she can still attend class. "I'm still trying to figure it out," she said. The devastating storm surge destroyed many older homes on the barrier island of Sanibel, Florida, and gouged crevices into its sand dunes. Taller condominium buildings were intact, but with the bottom floor blown out. Trees and utility poles were strewn everywhere. Just look at that damage. Homes destroyed by Ian seen in San Carlos, Florida, Friday. Picture from CBC. Municipal rescuers, private teams, and the Coast Guard used boats and helicopters Friday to evacuate residents who stayed for the storm and then were cut off from the mainland when a causeway collapsed. Volunteers who went to the island on personal watercraft helped escort an elderly couple to an area where Coast Guard rescuers took them aboard a helicopter. Hours after weakening to a tropical storm while crossing the Florida peninsula, Ian regained strength Thursday evening over the Atlantic. Ian made landfall in South Carolina with maximum sustained winds of 140 kilometers per hour. When it hit Florida's Gulf Coast on Wednesday, it was a powerful Category 4 hurricane with 240 kilometers an hour. It was only about 2 miles per hour off a Category 5 strength. After the heaviest of the rainfall blew through Charleston, Win Shaliksky examined a large elm tree in front of his house that had fallen across his downtown street. A firefighter examines a downed large tree on a road in Charleston on Friday, from Alex Brendan of the Associated Press. If this tree had fallen a different way, it would have been in our house, Shaliksky said. Pretty scary, pretty jarring. In North Carolina, heavy rain bands and winds crept into the state Friday afternoon. Governor Roy Cooper warned residents to be vigilant, given that up to 20 centimeters of rain could fall in some areas with high winds. Hurricane Ian is at our door. Expect drenching rain and sustained heavy winds over most of our state, Cooper said. Our message today is simple. Be smart and be safe. And this is a picture of vehicles driving through water in Charleston on Friday. Alex Brendan, the Associated Press. Yeah, that's... I would not do that at all. You could probably sink your car or truck. In Washington, President Joe Biden said he was directing every possible action be taken to save lives and get help to survivors. It's going to take months, years to rebuild, Biden said. I just want the people of Florida to know we see what you're going through and we're with you. Yeah. A devastating situation there. And this would appear to be the end of Ian because it will no longer go into the water. It will dissipate into a regular storm and then eventually fade out like all other storms when they come inland. Crazy storm. Alright, yeah, that's pretty much all the coverage that we got for Hurricane Ian. Once again, the headline, Storm Ian lashes South Carolina's hard-hit Florida starts rebuilding, which could take years. U.S. National Guard troops positioned South Carolina to help with rescues and the aftermath. And if there's any significant updates on it, I'll be sure to bring them to you. Alright, now for the rest of today's regular headlines. First, let's start with the Associated Press with AP News Minute.
This is AP News Minute. The revived Hurricane Ian made landfall on coastal South Carolina on Friday, though with much weaker winds than when it crossed Florida's Gulf Coast. Many areas of Charleston's downtown peninsula were underwater even before the hurricane made landfall. Ian left a broad swath of destruction in Florida, flooding areas on both of its coasts. Rescue crews piloted boats and waded through flooded streets to save thousands of people trapped amid flooded homes and shattered buildings. Florida Governor Ron DeSantis says crews have gone door to door to over 3,000 homes in the hardest hit areas. Officials in Florida fear the death toll from Hurricane Ian could rise substantially. Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky announced that his country would make an accelerated bid to join the NATO military alliance.
Yeah, that's pretty big.
As Russian President Vladimir Putin illegally annexed 4 Ukrainian regions, defying Western powers. Chris Havlick, Associated Press, with AP News Minute.
I do want to have a special mention to that, since Ukraine has will be requesting join NATO if they join NATO, and if Russia goes into Ukraine any further, or whatever Ukraine decides to attack the claimed areas that Russia has, which is still Ukraine technically. That's just Russia saying that it's now independent state about to join them. If Ukraine is in NATO by that point, there'll be all the other countries in NATO would have to intervene to help protect Ukraine. That would include all the countries like inside Europe, in North America, and in others. If that happens, it could be a really dangerous escalation in Europe. And some people said that might lead to World War III. Well, that would be World War III. I don't know what criteria would be for World War III. Some say that it could be Ukraine, some say nuclear war, something like that. But that's how some people are comparing it to. So it's a very tense situation there, and I worry it's just going to get worse at this point, because Russia's not going to be stopping. Alright, next we have BBC World News headlines.
This is BBC World News, the headlines. Russia's President Vladimir Putin has formally signed an agreement for the illegal annexation of 4 Ukrainian regions, and a huge concert took place in Moscow's Red Square. Ukraine's President Zelensky has applied for a fast track to join the NATO military alliance. He says Ukraine won't negotiate with Russia as long as Vladimir Putin is in power. Hurricane Ian has made landfall in South Carolina after it hit Florida earlier this week, causing severe devastation. In Brazil, final campaigning is underway for the presidential elections this weekend. It's a vote billed as Brazil's most important one since the country returned to democracy in 1989. A suicide bombing in Kabul has killed 19 people. The attack targeted a tuition center holding a mock university entrance exam. Many of the victims were teenage girls.
Alright, up next on this day, September 30th, 1972.
The theory that several thousand people just can't get through 3 swing doors all at the same time is not one that is easily explained to a Cassidy fan. Previous concerts by this latest of pop idols have left a trail of strained limbs and tonsils, and tonight's was no exception. Meanwhile, 22-year-old multimillionaire David Cassidy had slipped in by another entrance to avoid the crush. Bodyguards keep him from too close contact with what one might loosely call his bread and butter.
Does it worry you, the fact that they're screaming and shouting so much and they very often can't hear what you're singing?
No, it doesn't worry me. I've kind of accepted it, at this point. I've been doing concerts for a long time, in the States, and you get used to it, and so it becomes almost part of the show, you almost work it in, and I don't know, it's great, they love it and I love it too,
What's the secret of David Cassidy?
Secret? I don't know. I certainly don't think there's any secret, I'm here. An open book.
While he went through presents and telegrams from adoring fans, anonymous voices on a backstage phone kept pleading hopelessly to speak to David. Boyish good looks, helped not a little by a powerful publicity machine, have planted Cassidy firmly on the Beatle trail. Ever had a feeling that you've seen it all before?
Such hype. And last but not least, today in history for September 30th.
September 30th, 1946. Judgment in the German city of Nuremberg more than a year after World War II ends. That's where an international military tribunal finds nearly 24 top Nazi leaders guilty of war crimes. More than half are sentenced to death and hanged. 7 defendants get prison terms, 3 are acquitted. Hermann Göring, the Nazi Air Force chief, commits suicide before he could be executed. 1949, end of an early Cold War crisis as the last U.S. transport plane makes its run in the Berlin airlift. The American organized airlift brought millions of tons of food and fuel and other supplies to what was then West Berlin during a Soviet blockade. 1962, a pivotal struggle for America's civil rights movement reaches its climax at the University of Mississippi. That's where James Meredith, under federal protection, succeeds on his fourth try in becoming the first black student to register for classes. He's admitted after deadly riots on campus leave 2 people dead, and President John F. Kennedy puts National Guard troops under federal command to try to restore order.
Americans are free and sure to disagree with the law, but not to disobey it.
1791. The Magic Flute, the opera composed by Wolfgang Amadeus Mozart, premieres in Vienna, Austria. And 1955.
You're tearing me apart!
Actor James Dean is killed when his car smashes into another on a California highway. The rebel icon was just 24 years old. Today in history, September 30th. Tim McGuire, The Associated Press.
All right, that's all the today's headlines. Don't go away. We'll be right back and I'll explain what's going on with the games. Don't go away. Alright, I have returned. Okay, so once again, I'll start over here with the game that we are beginning to start with today. Our life beginning and always. It is a how do I describe it here? It's a dating simulator game that features male romance options, which I'm into, of course. And yeah, there was a DLC expansion that was released 2 days ago, featuring a character that I'm very much interested in. So, we'll start with that, and how we'll go about this between this and Dragon Quest XI. There'll be one day that we'll be doing a Dragon Quest, and then the next day we'll be doing our life in here. Just want to make sure that I have the right screen here, because I swear that I right here. No, that's one. Oh, maybe it is the correct one. Why is this all showing up then? Wonder. What's this doing here? Oh, here. That's even the one that I want. Yeah, so essentially that's what we're going to be doing here. I'm just really excited to play this because it's something that I've been following very closely. I had beta access to this, and I've been very kind of pleased and excited to see how this all goes down. Sure, I'm trying to move this, but the program is a little bit funky here. So yeah, that's how basically it goes. One day we'll do our life here, and then the next we'll return to Dragon Quest XI. And of course, when the Dragoon modifier for Legend of Dragoon releases, version 4, which should sometime be in the middle of October, I think, we'll do that right away. Yeah, so we'll have 3 games to focus on for October. Oh, speaking of which, I also am going to be doing Overwatch 2. That's supposed to be released in about 3 days. Well, probably 4, because we've got 3 days and 17 hours here. That's something that we'll be looking forward to as well. It's very long awaited here. Let me get rid of the box here. Alright, that should be good. So, that's what we're going to be doing, basically. Okay, it looks like I'll have to have the game screen on here. Okay, let's get started. And this is supposed to be all played from my perspective, so viewer input might be limited because I haven't played Derek's route yet, so. I want how this explain? I don't think so. I pretty much know what's going to be going on here. See, and this is the character customization here. Yeah, it's really customizable by how you want the protagonists, which is supposed to be you, how you want them to be. I'll pretty much do it how I've always had it to be. Oops. By the way, Omega, how are you doing, eh?
Rithoff Omega 666. Not bot.
Nice, nice. Sorry I haven't been on for the past 3 days. It's just been pretty busy. Work, getting stuff done and whatnot. Some events I had to do. Well, one event
Rithoff Omega 666. Went out to eat with a buddy and ate too much LMAO.
Nice, nice. Where'd you go to? I usually go out to Dairy Queen for my fast food stuff. Color. Yes, there's even voice names here.
TGI Fridays.
Okay, I see. I don't think Spyro would be among the names here. Whatever. Alright. Let's put a star in there. Yes, this game has pretty much exclusively male love interests. However, in the sequel, they are expected to have a female love interest come in. But I gotta say, this game is actually pretty one of the best dating simulators that I've seen. Pretty customizable and open-minded. Hand size? I don't even know what size my hands are, so I'm just gonna go with that. Do that. Yeah, and the game essentially begins in step 1, where you, the main character, are about 8 years old, and by each step you progress. You usually progress 5 years. So in step 1 you're 8, step 2 you're 13 years old, step 3 you're 18, and in step 4 you're 23 years old. So it's essentially you're playing a little bit of a life that you have in this little situation of a specific story. Oops. Oh, I have my Apple Watch right here, so let's go with that. Doing that. And we are already beginning with the story. And just a little bit of a note, Derek does not appear until step 2. So pretty much in step 1, we're pretty much spending our time with who's supposed to be our best friend, Cove, who's the original love interest for this. But this time, he's being sidelined because Derek is the love interest. And yeah, I'm a little bit blushed by this. But I am determined to get through this. Alright, let's begin. And I'll narrate, of course. Summer in Sunsetville was a special time of year. Your usually sleepy town began to bustle. It was a popular tourist destination, with people coming from all over to enjoy the beach, the weather, and the relaxation that came with both. The smell of the ocean, crisp and salty, hung in the air, bringing 3 whole months of schoolless vacation with it. During the summer, your mums didn't like you to wander too far outside of your neighborhood, so you knew the area pretty well. That included the people. Families came and went from Sunset Bird, but they mostly stayed and did what your mom called putting down roots. They built businesses, they got to know each other, and they definitely said hello to the nice young kids who waved when passing their stores. Just gotta start on my lights. I think I like my lights and stuff back here. Out here. There we go. Okay. Going for a walk around town mostly meant that the familiar, friendly residents waved, or asked how your family was, or most often just said hello. And when you have these choices, they basically shape how everyone treats you and how you behave inside the game. Either if you're shy or upbeat or something like that, I think. I think the colors signify how your character is directed in points. Let's see. I guess I was kind of a shy person when I was a kid. Maybe I'll pick this. I didn't really get why they always had to say hi. They saw me every day, but I nodded back at them anyway. It was the polite thing to do after all. And your mums had taught you to always be respectful. But today, there was a man sitting on the curb outside your house. He was sitting with his head in his hands, his whole body slumped over, and you wondered if he was even a real person, or a statue that had magically sprung up from the ground overnight. Whoever or whatever he was, you had never seen him before. One thing about knowing everyone in Sunset Bird was that people who you didn't recognize really stood out. It was rare for tourists to venture into the residential district, as your mums called it. So for you, not knowing who a total stranger was set off a lot of red flags. Your mums had a talk with you and your big sister Lizzie about this kind of situation before. What do we do? This probably fits for me. They mentioned that some people aren't good to talk to, but other types of people can help you even though if you don't know them. You weren't sure about this man yet. Yeah, this fits. Still, you felt a bit scared knowing that he was blocking the way to your front door. You know, it's interesting. This might be a nice way to get to know me as well. Get to know what my personality is. You slowed down, your mind erasing for ideas on how to get past him unseen, but it was too late to escape. There was a split second where your eyes met, and you took in a shaky breath, your eyes darting to the sky, pretending to stare at a bird who was hovering nearby. Hey! His voice startled you and made you jump, but still you didn't look at him. The bird landed on top of a nearby gate post, and its black feathers ruffled against the gentle breeze. Trying to keep your eyes on it was tough, especially when the man stood up and started to make his way toward you. What fits me here? This will probably fit me more. My whole body was frozen in place as he approached. Do you live around here? What's your name? You looked the man up and down, taking in his tan skin and relaxed appearance. His clothes were relaxed, the way he was acting wasn't. He had sharks on his shorts and a stingray tattoo, and you wondered if he was obsessed with the ocean or something. While you made your assessment, he looked at you expectantly, awaiting an answer to his question. Yeah, I'll say, yeah, I live here. That's great. He looked happy to hear it, giving you a broad smile. He reached into his pocket and pulled out a clean $20 bill. It crinkled in his hands as he held it up to you. Even more confused than before, you looked back at him.
Well...
Could you do me a favor? Nothing bad. Sorry, I should have... Let me start over. He cleared his throat and stood up straighter. From where you were standing, it just made him look creepier. I have a son. His name is Cove, who's about your age. Cove. That seemed like a strange person for an actual living person to me. But definitely the kind of name someone like this guy would give their kid. We moved in across the street, see? He gestured towards the house that had been empty for a year, his watch catching the late afternoon sunlight and reflecting off the waves. The gigantic for sale sign was finally gone. You must be Spire Kid Dragon, right? What a nice name. I met your moms earlier, and they told me that you were 8 just like him, so... He shook the $20 bill to bring it back to your attention, a hopeful smile tilting his lips at the corners. Can you try to be friends with the boy? Just give it a chance, and you can keep this. He's a good kid, you'll like him.
Do you mind?
But you've got to keep it a secret too, okay? Wouldn't be friendly to say his dad sent you. Did upper kids really get their parents to pay for friendships? Had your mom's done that for you and Lizzie? The thought made you frown. What do you say? Want to make a deal? No. No thank you, sorry. He deflated enough to notice, but not completely.
Are you sure?
It won't be so bad, even if it's just for the summer, that'd be enough. That only made this sound more strange to you. Why does it lasting for the summer matter? When it was clear his initial strategy wasn't going to fly, he tucked the bill into a back pocket and changed the request. I get it. You don't have to. Would you be comfortable with he and I coming by for a normal visit? No money involved. What would I say here? Pretty much this. I always had to make sure that it was okay. You'd have to ask my mom's. His smile got bigger again. His eyes crinkled at the sides. Of course, they invited us over earlier. I'd like to ask you too. Then I guess you can. I'll bring him by tomorrow. I want him to meet and greet with the neighbors today, but... well, I don't know where he's gotten off to. He laughed when he said that, but with the way his face looked, you thought he actually wanted to cry. If you see him, can you tell him to come on home? He's got a pink cast and glasses. Can't miss it. I can try. You nodded, not totally certain that you find Cove, but look. The man smiled and reached out to pat you on the head, paused before doing so, then pulled his hand away instead. Your mom's already checking around for me. Such a thoughtful group you are. Now I better go look too. Can't put everyone else to work while I keep sitting here. I thought he might come back and that's not what's in. I have to go. Thanks again, Spyro Kid, so much. He jogged off down the street without another word. You decided to check the hills behind your house. first sight. The chirping of crickets in the tall grass greeted you, quiet and familiar. From the top of the hill, you could see the ocean. As you walked, you listened to the crash of the waves on the shore, and the seagulls squawking as they settled down for the night. One fits. I did have a bit of imagination. I'd love to hear about stories about the sea, about the merfolk and the sea serpents I imagined far beneath the waves. Such a feat. Sometimes you can almost convince yourself you had seen the flash of shiny mermaid's tail in the distance. You took in a deep breath. You wanted to try and relax and couldn't. You weren't sure what, but something told you that you weren't alone. So you glanced around. There was a boy sitting at the top of one hill, almost completely hidden within the long grass and white flowers surrounding him. His head was buried in his knees, staring ahead by himself. For whatever reason, probably just that he wasn't paying attention, he hadn't noticed you yet. You watched him a minute longer, feeling a little bit like you found a deer in the wild. Though deer didn't have... green hair. But this new boy did. You watched as it fluttered softly around his face in the breeze. After a few more seconds, you took a step forward, then another. Then he glanced your way. His aquarium eyes reflected the light of the moon. You stopped, raising a hand to acknowledge him and show that you weren't scary. Are you lost? With a start, he jumped to his feet, his hands bailing into fists at his sides. He didn't say anything, just stared at you in a strange way. He'd been crying. There were traces of tears on his cheeks and his knees, soaking the hem of his shorts, and his eyes were still shining with a few more. You'd obviously caught him off guard. Pink cast seemed to glow in the twilight, though when he caught you staring at it, he hid his arm back behind his back. Something the man earlier had said stuck out to you. Cove? Eyes wide, he studied you. How'd you know that? I'll be honest. I met your dad.
Oh.
So, this is your hill? He gestured with his uninjured arm to the patch of grass surrounding you, his face falling at the prospect. I can leave if it is. You can't own a hill. Why not? How could you? You just do. I had a hill back home. Well, this still isn't mine. Oh. He sat back down with a thumb, resting his chin on his knees again. Curious about the strange new boy with the odd dad, you sat on the patch of grass next to him. The pure white flowers that covered this hill rocked back and forth gently as the stars twinkled above. The way they dotted the sky made them seem like flowers, too. The night wind was cool as it had traveled over the ocean and up the hill, chasing away the heat from the afternoon sun. I don't want to see too nosy. Why are you here? A quiet hiccup escaped Cove as soon as he asked the question. Almost like they never stopped. Tears started up again with a vengeance. My parents, they didn't want to live together with me anymore. The tears fell fast and heavy over his flushed cheeks, thickening his dark lashes. My mom made my dad leave and he took me with him, and now we have a house here and I want to go home. The outburst took you off guard. By the time he was done wailing, Cove's chest was heaving with exhaustion. He sniffled and removed his glasses, wiping at his eyes with the back of his hand before he put them back on again. I hate this place. I want my real life back. I want my mom. I'm sorry. He slipped his hands underneath his glasses and pressed his fingers against his eyelids. Cove wound himself up again for another long crying fit. You felt bad for him, being forced to come here with no choice. You couldn't imagine what it would feel like to live with only one of your moms. It must be pretty hard. Yeah, I can definitely relate. But from way off in the distance, you heard your parents. Spyro Kid!
Cove?
Kids, where'd you go? Cove looked at you, tears still clinging to his cheeks. Don't tell them we're here.
I want to go home.
I don't want to go back to that house. It'll be okay. You were struck by a sudden need to reassure Cove. It's not gonna be all fun, but isn't he your family too? Yeah, I guess. Then you can count on him when you really, really need him. You shot him a grin and pushed yourself to your feet. Slowly, Cove stood up with you, still looking a little reluctant. His dad's voice rang out again. Cove, can you hear me? He looked toward the sound of his dad's voice, silent, then turned away while rubbing his not-bandaged arm.
Sorry.
I still don't want to go. No, I won't add much to the pressure. I waited silently with him. Yeah, I get it. You do? Before you could answer, you heard Cove's dad even closer than before. There you are, bud. The trio parents appeared over the curve of the hill. Instantly, all their eyes landed on you and they rushed over. Both of your moms were at your side in a split second, faces filled with worry. Spyro Kid, you're here after all. We had been at the park to check for Cove and then heard what happened earlier when you met the new neighbor. I thought you might have gone further away. Cove didn't want to go home just yet. Mommy gave Cove a small smile, and then she turned back to you. Thank God you're both fine. Were you two having fun out here? You looked over at Cove, who was wiggling against his dad's tight hug and pushing out his arms. I'm gonna say, you didn't think that was the right word to describe it, but weren't sure what else to say to your moms. Finally letting... Some of these answers are really interesting. Finally letting go of his squirming, scowling son, Cove's dad turned to the three of you.
That's a relief.
Thanks very much for finding him. I really don't know this neighborhood. Good thing Spyro Kid knows this whole area so well. Absolutely. We should be getting home now. It's been a long day for us all. Say goodbye, Cove.
Bye.
The two of them walked off into the darkness, heading toward the neighborhood. You watched Cove's bright pink cast until it disappeared. Tell you what, we'll have a proper playdate tomorrow, okay? Your new friend's dad wanted to bring him by to see you and Lizzie. How does that sound? Sure. Can I show him my stuff?
Of course.
Then okay. Both your moms laughed, sounds overlapping in a warm, familiar chorus. Mommy put her arm around your shoulder and led you toward the path. Satisfied and more than a little ready to go to bed after your long, exciting day, you followed them home. Okay, so at this point, choose your feelings for Cove. This is how you feel towards Cove for this step. It can be changed later. It can change in later steps. I've been nervous before. Yeah, so comfort, we got direct or relaxed and nervous. This is essentially what is more interesting to you. And apologies for that covering up. Essentially what's over the hurricane track window is interest. Either it could be indifferent, fond, crush, or even love. But love is locked because it can't go that far quite yet. You're so young. For this, for me personally, I am going to pick nervous. That's kind of how I am. And a nervous fond. That should be good. And you won't be able to change it until step 2. Understood. We are still in the prologue, I believe. At the breakfast table the next morning, you finish your food faster than usual. Actually, Omega, I want to get your thoughts. What do you think of this game so far? Have you ever tried out dating simulators before? I'll just continue reading while you chat, while you type in, if you're still here.
Omega 666. Seems okay to me.
Yeah. Have you ever... You've never played these before, have you? Or they're not in your interests? Yeah, it's a bit of a lighthearted story. It's a bit deep at times, but I feel like it's something that I'll be honest.
Rithoff Omega 666. Not really in my interest.
Yeah, I'll be honest. Games with LGBT content I'm really interested in. Dragon Quest even has a little bit of that, of course, even with Salvando. With this here, because I'm into guys, I just feel like I just need to play these and just show how I feel about these, because a lot of people have these feelings and they just have to be recognized, but I think it can also be a little fun thing. But to be clear, it's not going to be forever that's this is going to be going. I'll be going back and forth.
666. I get it. Smiley face.
Yeah, and this is definitely one of the best that I've played, so it's not like it's going to be kind of crap. It is impressive, and I just want to show it off. Yeah, essentially. Plus, I'm excited to try this. Okay. Your sister Lizzie had run out earlier to go play, but you stayed put. Today, just like your mom said, promised, Cove was coming over to hang out. Excited to see your new friend again, Spyro Kid? You nodded, smiling slightly.
How sweet.
I'm so happy you moved in.
Okay.
That said, are you done with your breakfast? My bowl was entirely empty, so I nodded. Good job. He should be here soon. Cleanup began, and then on cue, there was a knock. It was hesitant, like the person wasn't sure they were in the right place. Still loud, though. We need to get a more obvious doorbell. I know. Spyro Kid, could you get it? Wiggling out of your chair without really pushing it back, you made your way to the door. Hey, Dragon family! Thanks for having us. Mr. Holden, as your mom said, called him, and his son were here. Cove looked different in the bright lighting of your living room, and when he wasn't crying. With his dad standing in front of him, and mom and mommy behind you, you and Cove looked at each other. Pleased to see your new friend again, you smiled at Cove. He smiled back with some hesitation. Do you want to see my room?
Okay. Take care.
Let us know if you need anything, you two. Have fun, kids.
See you.
Play nice, son. You led him to your room, puffing up your chest a little bit at the sight of your treasures. There were lots of stuffed animals, a cool bed, and a window to look out. It was a great room. You hadn't had anyone to show it to in a while, but you were really proud of it. He leaned in a little closer to one of your drawings on the wall. I like this. Thank you. You're welcome. You smiled at him. You were proud of that particular piece of art, and you were glad he noticed it. He turned to look around the room a little more, studying the books on your desk and the pictures on the walls. Started to feel a bit nervous. You wanted to say something, but didn't know what, so you let him keep looking. Then his eyes landed on the tiny box of each things you'd collected, tucked away by your door. He took a step towards it before hesitating and pointing at it instead. What's that? A hoard of stuff I found on the beach.
Oh.
Do you have any driftwood in there? Dragging the box in the middle of the room, you and Cove flopped down next to it. Yeah. He gestured to a piece at the bottom, still covered with specks of sand.
Neat.
This is a good collection. You got the sense from the tone of his voice that he wasn't just saying it to be nice, or to be like Shiloh. He actually meant it. Ah, Shiloh's coming over. Shiloh? My sister's friend. He wants to, meet you. Do I have to see him? It'll be okay, I think. Here, I found this shell in the log end. You pulled out seashell after seashell, explaining where you had gotten each one and holding them against the light. There were big ones, small ones, pink, purple, and orange. Most of them you washed off in the bathroom sink when you brought them home, cleaning off the sand. Yeah, probably this one. Over the past few years, I had even learned some of their scientific names. You had a whole picture book dedicated to different shells and sea life. You learned a lot about flipping through its pages. Apparently fascinated either by the stories or by the shells themselves, Cove listened with what looked like the full force of his attention. It was a new experience to be the center of such dedicated focus. But Cove hadn't been mean to you, so you didn't mind. You smiled at him every now and then while showing him your collection. Kids, come down to the living room. You could tell the idea was making him unhappy, but Mommy wasn't giving you much of a chance to hang around. Cove hadn't been like this meeting you. You guessed it was because he thinks you found each other by accident, not that a parent made it happen. Mr. Holden must be right that telling Cove his dad was part of that would be a bad idea. Before you knew it, you've been escorted downstairs and deposited in the living room, ready for Shiloh's visit. The two of you sat side by side on the floor of your home's entryway. I brought the box of shells. I want to keep looking at them. I'm sort of stuck in between these two. Such crap. What the heck? I'll just say great. Busted open. We can keep looking while we wait for Shiloh. Cove reached in and pulled out a big orange shell. Oh, like he hadn't spoken aloud yet. He turned to you and held it up, his eyes shining. I think this one's the best of them. You can take it. Cove looked at you in surprise, his eyes going wide. Really? Sure, you like it a lot, right? Uh-huh, but I don't want to take it from you. It's okay. You got the impression he was hesitant to accept something because he didn't know you very well yet. I let it go. Okay. You didn't want to pressure Cove too much. It was supposed to make him happy, not nervous. Plus, Cove was your neighbor now. Maybe you could give it to him another time. The two of you were still sitting on the floor looking through your collection of beach findings when the doorbell finally rang. Cove jumped, startled by the sound. Since the person hadn't knocked, you figured it was probably Shiloh. You know where to look for that. Lizzie's friend? You nodded, but it didn't seem to make Cove feel any better. It was already obvious that Cove didn't hide his feelings well. You could tell what he was thinking right away. This isn't a good idea. I'm sorry, there's nowhere to go. He's at our only door, and if you go upstairs, he'll find you. What are we doing? Cove glanced around the room, his eyes wide, and finally paused, with his gaze locked onto the back of the house. I could go out the window. He was already walking towards it. Scrambling to think of something to say, you stepped forward, then paused. The hell do I even say to him? Shiloh's the least scary person alive. Every single bunny rabbit is scarier than Shiloh. I don't want to see him. I don't know him. I comforted him. You're right. Meeting new people's really hard. I'm sorry. Thanks. Thanks. Shiloh poked his head into the living room. It was impossible to know for sure if he had heard what you've been saying or not, but you guessed that he had.
Hi!
Hi, Spyro Kid. And hi, Cove? Cove shot you an uneasy glance.
Hi.
Oh my. I'm Shiloh. It's nice to meet you. Yeah. You have a lot of freckles. Right, I do. What are you guys doing? We're looking at shells.
Can I do it too?
Awesome. Cove shrugged, then looked back at your box of beach findings. What about that one? The plan for the afternoon, at least as far as you were concerned, was to sit and look at the beach things some more. You weren't really in the mood to do much of anything else, especially if Cove was having fun. You held out a recent find to Cove, a scalloped shell that had washed up on shore. It's a pretty color, unlike my cast. The beautiful glittering pink did look a little bit like the wrap around his arm. Pink is a nice color. Okay.
Oh?
Says okay a lot. Is it your favorite? Not really. What is? Maybe green or blue? It might be yellow. Oh, those are all cool.
I guess.
I like those colors too.
Awesome.
Both of them smiled. Like usual, it didn't take long for Shiloh to get fidgety. Lizzie was his favorite. Without her around, Shiloh didn't seem to know what to do with himself. And Cove wasn't like your sister. He wasn't that much like you either. Is Lizzie coming back? Don't know. Where'd she go? I think she's at the beach. Probably. Is she playing at her park? Cove's eyes lit up at the mention of the park, and he looked towards you. There's a park? Yep, but it's old. Can you show me? I want to go. He started getting up before he had even answered, and Shiloh jumped up beside him in excitement. Really? You do too, right, Spire Kid? The park is fun. Nah. The park is pretty great.
Yeah.
It's right at the beach, so there's lots of fun stuff to do, and lots of sand. There's a jungle gym and a bunch of swings. That sounds like it could be cool. So, are we going to find Lizzie? I don't know. I never really wanted to see her. I just wanted to check the park out. Adrift without any direction, Shiloh finally turned to you. Okay. He perked up. Both boys wanted to go. It was only fair. After getting permission from your moms, the three of you were ready to head out. It was a short walk to the park. Lizzie had convinced her moms that it was so short, she should always be allowed to walk there by herself. When you found her, she was hanging on the jungle gym, swinging back and forth. Hey, Lizzie. Her face lit up when she saw you, her big brown eyes going wide. Spire Kid, Shiloh! Hi! She dropped to the ground and landed with a soft thud in the sand. In a split second, Shiloh had abandoned you two and scrambled over to stand by her. Oh, you little bastard. You were used to being left out and it was just the three of you. But now Cove is there. Here. You wondered if you would leave too. Who's that? It's Cove. He's new.
Hi.
I remember. Welcome to my park. Nobody ever comes to play here, so this is where we get together. She gestured wildly with her arms as if to present the area to the newcomer. Without interrupting Lizzie's speech, Cove whispered in your ear, quiet enough that the others wouldn't overhear. I thought kids couldn't own places like parks or hills. You couldn't help but laugh a tiny bit. While Lizzie continued talking, you took the chance to kick off your shoes and wriggle your toes through the warm sand. Nice, huh? In this neighborhood, I'm the one who comes up with the ideas. You are?
Uh-huh.
Yeah, I am. Who else could handle the job? Lizzie is the oldest. By a lot. My mom said you're Spire Kid's age.
Yeah.
Thought so. I'm still the only one in this group with double digits. What about other kids? Other kids? There aren't any. We're the only kids here, and Shiloh's just visiting from another place. Not even tourists really bring their kids here. This is the land of the ancients. Be careful that the oldies don't try to steal your youth.
Oh.
For a second, it looked like he might cry again. But something in his eyes shifted and he looked back at Lizzie. What kind of old people? Like moms and dads or grandparents? Grandparents who don't have kids. They hate kids. Why? We haven't done anything. Only some of them don't like kids. You interjected quickly, hoping Lizzie wouldn't take things too far. Cove sniffled. His forehead creased in worry. I'm sorry, I'm laughing. Lizzie was staring Cove down, but Cove wasn't even looking at her anymore. He didn't seem to care that she was there. He went into his own head. Shiloh was the next one to speak, completely unaware of the situation. I met Lizzie and Spire Kid in school. You'll see tons of kids there once summer is over. I don't want to go to a new school. I don't want summer to end. Shiloh looked down to the dirt. He hadn't had much luck striking up conversations with Cove. I like summer vacation a lot too. All the building tension in the air suddenly vanished when Lizzie laughed. At Shiloh's discomfort, at how weird she thought Cove was, at something else entirely, he didn't really know. But she laughed, face scrunching up.
Okay.
Welcome to Sunset Burp Cove. Take a seat, put up your feet, and get used to it. You offered him a small smile, and that at least looked to reassure him some. For the rest of the summer, Cove was always there. You saw him more often than Shiloh, and on some days, when she was in a bad mood or busy, you even saw him more than Lizzie. He became a staple of your everyday life, the way the sun at lunch and the beach were. During your first summer together, you really liked Cove. He was a fun person to play with, and he seemed to like playing with you too. Of course, that was only the start of things. Yeah, and so at this point, we've reached the point where we can select moments. And in step 1, 2, and 3, there are 10 of these moments, including the DLC. And with step 4 is basically the conclusion of the story with no specific moments to go through, apparently. I'm not even sure if it's relevant for me to go through these, because Derek is in step 2, but I could go through them. I am not sure. Omega, what do you think? Should we dive into some of these moments, or just go right ahead to where Derek shows up, I wonder? I've already seen these before, but these moments do give the opportunity for me to input some of my characteristics, so the story would automatically adapt, and I think people would eventually change how they act towards me. It's that kind of game anyway. And all these moments have different scenarios that usually take like maybe 15 minutes to go through, I think.
Rithoff Omega 666.
Okay.
Do the moments. Smiley face.
Alright. Which one should we do first? We don't have to do them in a particular order. So we got shopping, a grown-up, long day, sandcastle, fireflies, library, ghost, barbecue, runaway, or sleepover. Which one should we do first? I'll leave that to you.
Rithoff Omega 666. Ghost.
Alright, let's do this. The night was incredibly still. You really couldn't ignore how silent it was. It was almost eerie. You can even hear Lizzie snoring in the next room over. It was hard to believe how much of a blur today was. Summer sure did slip right past you. You flicked through the moments like pages in a scrapbook as you laid in bed. The ones that stuck out all seemed to include your neighbor, Cove. Excuse me. It was funny how he had become such a big part of your life in such a short span of time. You thought a lot about what adventures you could have tomorrow until sleep started to catch up to you. Then you heard something scrape against the window. It wasn't that uncommon for the wind to push a tree branch against the glass. Summer breezes were the worst sometimes. But the more you tried to ignore it, the louder it seemed to like it became. It was like something was trying to get your attention. You lifted your head off the pillow to get a better look. Nothing was there. Nothing that you could see, at least. What would I do? I had to investigate the mysterious sound. Too creepy to ignore. You practically jumped out of bed and crept down the stairs to go outside. Uh-oh. Your moms were still awake. They've stayed up so late, it seemed. Luckily, they were watching TV and didn't even hear the soft click of the front door opening as you slipped past. You looked around the neighborhood for a few seconds, checking over each individual house. It looked normal, but it didn't feel that way. You knew you weren't supposed to be out here right now. How does it feel for me? It was exhilarating. Your chest was light, and you couldn't keep the grin from your face. No one had permitted you to go out. In fact, no one even knew you were out. And yet here you were. You wonder what else you could do. Whatever rules were so ingrained that you had never even considered that they could be broken. I turned my phone off sleep mode. Byra Kid. You twitched at the sudden call. immediately calming down upon seeing Cove walking up to you. It was strange, and yet almost completely normal to have him appear like this right now. What are you doing? I saw you standing around in the middle of the street from my window. You weren't sleeping either? Why not? Cove turned up his lips to smile, almost as if he were amused by the question. Because... you should be in bed.
No way.
I don't have to. You go home. You opened your mouth, then just shook your head. Cove seemed to get the gist despite your silence. Why? I heard something. You did too? That's why I was up. Cove hesitated for a moment, looking down the street before his aquarium eyes fell on you again. Did it scare you? A little. Me too. Feel better that you're here. Me too. The two of you delicately smiled at that. Cove even chuckled a bit. It was nice that you both felt the same way about things. I was kind of wondering if it was the wind, but what if it's not? What if it's a person? What if it's something that's not a person? That sounding noise suddenly rushed through the air. Cove, and you flinched. Sounds even worse than before. You were about to agree with them when the noise came yet again, tearing through the still night. The two of you rapidly looked around, trying to find the source, but to no avail. There was no sign of an answer to this puzzle. You thought that... there's gotta be a regular reason for it. You didn't believe in monsters or anything like that. That only meant that whatever was causing that noise had to be something much more real. You shuffled closer to Cove, trying to stop yourself from shaking at the bad thoughts that were entering your mind. Hey, can you tell where it's coming from?
Not really.
Then we'll have to look more, somewhere else. Maybe we'll see something. Okay, let's go. You clustered together as you walked the familiar streets of your neighborhood, drawing strength from each other's presence. Shadows cut corners and angles where you didn't expect them, distorting the features you saw every day. The noise came again, shrill and hard. Set your teeth on edge the way it ground its way through you. Cove's throat bobbed. His eyes glistened in dim light. I took a deep breath to calm myself. You sucked in a lungful of the cold night air, letting it out slowly through your mouth. Your parents had mentioned that it was good for relaxing nerves. There was no question that you were afraid of whatever the noise may be, but you didn't want that to stop you. Despite your fear, you had to be brave. Cove stepped in front of you to look at your face. He was serious. We can do it, Spire Kid. He lifted his hand up for you to take. I gripped his arm. You carefully slid your hand into his, and though your palms were both clammy, you held on tight. You couldn't explain why, but it made you feel stronger, and you felt like you were ready to continue on now. Cove shut his eyes and pressed his lips together. Your fingers locked around each other even tighter.
So...
where do you want to check? Where do we want to check? The beach. The beach stretched out in front of you. Nothing in sight along its sands, no matter which way you turned. Part of you had imagined the noise as some creature of the deep washed up on the shore and calling for aid. That theory had to be taken off the list for now. Still, you'd spent enough time on the shore to know that the real finds often required a sharp eye and careful attention. The sound screamed past your ear, your hunched up shoulders high, as if ready to endure a blow. But the only damage was to your ears. There didn't appear to be any immediate danger, despite every bone in your body telling you that something wasn't right. Run away! But you kept going forward. You couldn't stop when you had already gone so far. You had to find out what was going on. Your nerves were rattled, and you and Cove ended up huddling together again. That had seemed to become the default response to anything scary. He then whispered to you. Let's see if there's anything here. Cove began to comb the beach for clues. You followed suit. The angry wind sent grains of sand rolling across the beach like waves. You stayed clear of the water, which was rough and choppy tonight, and scoured the area for hints as to what might be happening. You saw something glint in the sand, full of promise. But when you eagerly uncovered it, you found that it was just foil from a chip packet. You stowed it away with a sigh. Did you find something? No. Cove shrugged and gave you a sympathetic smile. That's how it goes sometimes. You like hunting for treasures on the beach too, right?
Yeah.
Have you ever found anything mysterious or weird? You were expecting him to mull the question over for a bit, but Cove answered immediately. Teeth. Like a shark's tooth? You've seen those for sale in shops, though you've never been lucky enough to stumble across one at the beach. No, not that. People teeth. No! Yeah, you know how grown-ups sometimes don't have their own teeth any longer, and they get fake ones so they can still eat? You nodded, listening in fascinated horror. I found some, the top half. How did you know it was the top half? It had the pink top of the mouth bit, like this. He opened wide and pointed at the roof of his mouth. He let out a squeal. What did you do with them? Mom took them from me. I don't know what happened to it after that. That was... gross. I hope you washed your hands a billion times after you touched them. I washed them, I'm pretty sure. Once you were satisfied nothing out of the ordinary was to be found on the beach, you had to consider your next step. Though the noise wasn't as clear as when you first stepped outside, you could still hear its shrieks rendering through the peaceful night. You... 2 locations. I don't even know what to pick. Omega, do you think we should check out the park or the hills behind the house? Gonna need some water anyway.
Earth off Omega 666. Hills.
You and Cove ascended the hill, lit only by the stars in the night sky. The wind rippled through the grass and ruffled your hair. Without the sun's light to translate what you were seeing, every bush in the distance looked like a creepy figure or towering monster. The noise was quieter here, whether that was because what was causing the noise was coming to an end, or because you were further from the source, you couldn't be sure. The top of the hill was an excellent vantage point to survey the town from. Everything appeared normal. There was no out-of-place sight pinpointing the answer to this mystery. Without visible markers to guide your way, you supposed it was up to you and Cove to deduce the source of the sound. The hill had many great hiding places, and you intended to check them all. You upturned rocks, cleared up trees, and rummaged in the thick grass for anything that might bring some closure on all this. You stuck close to Cove as he hunted for the source of the noise. When the shrieking noise shook the air, seeing him beside you calmed your racing heart. Seeking to ease your nerves and put aside thoughts of what might be on this dark, spooky night, you decided to strike up a conversation. Your search for a topic was more fruitful than your search for the noise. Your eyes fell on Cove's cast and you were instantly inspired. Have you broken any bones? Any other bones?
No.
Oh. Turned out that it wasn't much of an engaging topic for him after all. What? I've never broken any bone. Actually, did I break any bones before? Not that I specifically remember. I did fall I did fall downstairs one time when I was a kid. There was blood everywhere and whatever. But no, I don't think I've broken bones. Lucky. That put an end to your injury discussion. But Cove's calmer mood elevated the bleak atmosphere like you hoped it would. Cove cast his eyes out to the darkness, feeling bolder. Does this make you feel strange? We were people who heard weird noises at night and we're out looking for what it is. It's like we're at the start of a book or movie and we're the main characters. Yeah. Fantasy story. The world they found outside like their own, but it wasn't. They had stepped into another dimension without even knowing.
Really?
Yep, it's a dimension where everyone has been cursed to sleep until the monster making noise is defeated. How are we going to defeat the monster? We'll find magical swords that can defeat the dreaded beast with one blow. Okay. Well, whatever the noise was, you were confident that you had established that it was not coming from the hill. You stretched out arms reaching towards the sky like you were about to grab one of the twinkling stars. Your body was feeling heavy now, no longer spurred by fear and adrenaline. However, the noise had not been located. You listened for it, hoping that something about its call would finally click for you. It didn't come. What? Gone. Cove had been admiring when the poppies perked up at that. You put a finger up to your lips and watched as he went through the same verification process. It stopped. But what was it in the first place? I don't know. That was that then. I don't need to stay out here any longer, without a single clue or even the noise itself to lead you. You felt your bed calling you. It was a much sweeter, friendlier call than the one that lured you out of bed in the first place. The night was still as you walked home. None of the usual background noises or the eerie whistle from before. You could hear every step you and Cove made, like a cough in a movie theater. The two of you came to a halt outside your front door. Never before had it looked so ominous. You wrung your hands nervously. Would your absence have been noticed? Do you sneak out a lot? This is the first time. Yeah, I've never tried to do it till now. Thought so. How'd you know? I hadn't seen you out of my window this late before. That was fair. Though it could have been possible that you were just so good at sneaking that this was the first time he had caught you. Are you worried about getting caught?
No.
He was so forthright that you believed him completely. But your dad, won't he get mad or sad if he catches you? He's never happy with what I do. Oh. I sympathized. That must be hard. Yeah, he and Mom do what they want. Why shouldn't I? Alright, I'm going in.
Bye.
Hey. Good night, Cove. Thanks for coming with me tonight. I'm not sure I could have done it by myself. I wanted to go with you. You beamed at him. Turned the doorknob as slowly as the clock's minute hand, holding your breath for the telltale click of the lock, then nudged it open. When all that happened was the door opening, rather than the blaring alarms that you feared, you melted with relief. Back inside your house, you were surprised to find your mom still watching TV. Weirder still, it looked like that they were on the same show as they were watching before you left. Yet you were positive you've been out investigating for hours. Perhaps you used your distraction to your advantage. If you could just get up the stairs, you would be safe from suspicion. But how could you get there? I tried to sneak past. You hugged the wall as you creeped delicately around the perimeter of the room. It was a valiant effort that any spy would have been proud of. Right up until the moment when you tripped over a power cord and nearly fell over. Fire Kid? You might not have fallen, but your accident ruined your cover. You have been spotted. They abandoned the couch and their show to hurry over. They were still in a state of surprise. You weren't in trouble yet.
Are you okay?
What are you doing down here, sweetie? Did you have a bad dream? Kinda wanna lie. You couldn't bring yourself to own up to what you had done. I heard scary noises, so I came down here. Their surprise gave way to concern.
Sweetie.
Honey! Mom took you by the hand and led you up the stairs. Woof! Your hand is cold. Why didn't you come over to us? I was supposed to be in bed. Fire Kid, you won't ever be in trouble for coming to us when you're frightened. We'd much rather you came to us than try to sell things all by yourself. Her phrasing made you feel bad. The nervousness that ate you as you were tucked into bed. Your moms assumed that your flushing insistence on delving under the covers was part of your fear, and spoke to you softly until you calmed down enough to peep out from underneath the sheets. Once your moms had left, you turned over the night's adventure in your mind. Still hard to believe that you really done it. It was harder still to believe that you'd gotten away with it. Even now, you half expected to be caught somehow. Perhaps he left the door ajar, or trailed sand where they had already swept up. Perhaps you... Oh my. You hoped that Cove had gotten home, okay? Though he hadn't been worried, being told off was never fun. Wriggling down deeper underneath the sheets, your thoughts turned to the unsolved mystery. You and Cove had only just begun to scratch the surface of it. Maybe you'd solve it and maybe you wouldn't. But what mattered was that you'd shared the experience with each other. You were still so energized by the night's excitement that you tossed and turned in bed for some time, thinking up theories to share with Cove when you next saw him. Sleep eventually calmed you, but the adventure merely resumed in your dreams. The next morning proceeded like usual, though your mom seemed to be giving extra consideration since finding you last night. You later learned Cove didn't end up in trouble for the nightly escapade either. It was unclear whether that was because his dad chose not to punish him or if Cove got away with it. It was amazing to you that it worked out for both of you. As for the sounds that started this all, the adults around were convinced it was nothing more than the wind. For your imaginative mind, that wasn't nearly enough. How could they accept something so simple so easily? Maybe it'd make more sense when you were growing up too. Alright, we've done our first moment. I'm just gonna take a quick break, gonna refill my water bottle and refresh my voice for my throat. Don't go away, we'll be right back. Welcome back from the break, everybody. Okay, so, Omega, which moment do we have next here? Or what do we do next, anyway? We got moments such as shopping, grown-up, long day, sandcastle, fireflies, library, barbecue.
Barbecue.
Alright, let's do it. You've been brought along to the Big Park today, which did an excellent job at living up to its title. The park near your house, with its lonely playground equipment, wasn't even a quarter of the size of the expanse of grass and trees that lay before you now. As it was in the next town over, and not too far for you to walk to by yourself, you didn't get to visit much, and so you soaked up the environment. Another difference between this park and the one in your neighborhood was that this one had visitors other than you, Lizzie, Shiloh, and Cove. Today, it was the busiest you've ever seen it, thanks to a community get-together luring people in from all over the local area with the promise of barbecue and fireworks. Your family and Coves were just two of many. What seemed like dozens of cars were parked up already when you had arrived. You saw Cove hesitate as he took in the growing gaggle of strangers. By your mummy, Lizzie bounced on the balls of her feet, barely containing her excitement. See. I'm inching towards the. I couldn't wait for fireworks, and my tummy was already rumbling for the food to come. Let's do the fireworks. It was going to be so cool. Mommy had told you that the people running the community event weren't charging for it, but she wanted to get them something in return. Which is why you had been allowed to touch the beautifully iced cupcakes she had carried on her lap during the drive over. It was a special treat for them. Every time the car made a turn, she clutched the box tight enough for her knuckles to strain, much to everyone else's amusement. Mr. Holden's contribution to the party, a huge pack of juice boxes, was tucked under his arm after being retrieved from the car's trunk. You bet there had been no such dramatics around that cargo getting here in one piece, but the boxes did lack the beautiful shimmer of Mommy's treasured cupcakes.
Okie dokie.
Everyone all set? Should be. Cove, did you put sunscreen on before you left? Yeah, I always do. You don't have to tell me. Mr. Wow, Mr. Holden deflated. His attempt at caring for his son rebuffed, but he triumphed with a smile. I don't know why that's funny.
Good kid.
I don't want you getting burned, or dehydrated either. It'll be a busy day.
Well...
Don't think there's going to be any risk of that second part. Mom nodded at the tables up ahead, laden with all kinds of food and drink. She was right. There was plenty to go around. The parents headed over with you, Lizzie and Cove trailing after them. A bunch of grown-ups were clustered around there, chatting, but you were more intrigued by what was on the tablets. Some of it was familiar. Chilled meat, sliced vegetables, big bags of chips. But there was a lot that you didn't recognize. Your moms had said that you weren't to touch the food until they said it was time to eat. I didn't want to risk getting caught. It'd be bad if you got in trouble before the event had even started. You saw that Mommy and Mr. Holden had deposited the food and drink they bought. Mommy gave the cupcakes one final worried look, before turning to you with a smile. Since that's the topic at hand, how about we freshen up with something to drink? I'm just gonna get rid of the overlays here just so you can see the face. Pardon me, that did not work. Just a sec here. Let me see here. Actually, I could probably just get rid of the hurricane tracker window. Pretty much in a tropical storm, and we all know where it's going to be headed. There we go. Any hoodle. Yeah! That'd be great. Along with the ones out, there was a giant ice cooler on the ground, stuffed full of cans of soda, boxes and juice, and milk, as well as bottles of water. Your drink was... soda. Or... I probably do water, but soda's pretty much my favorite drink. I do drink a lot of water. The bubbles in the soda tickled your nose as you gulped it down. Your little group took a break while everyone quenched their thirst. Mr. Holden smacked his lips, pantomiming enjoyment? That hit the spot. But you kids should go and have fun. You can take your stuff with you and join the other kids playing games. Don't go too far from the tables. We'll be keeping an eye out, so don't even think about sneaking off. We're not going to go to the other parts of the park today. Lizzie huffed at their comments. They did sound directed at her, but she scanned the surroundings. Nodding her head towards the group of kids like a general directing their battalion, she pointed that way.
Come on!
Let's go over there! Cove's mouth was downturned as he looked from the parents and the other adults to the new kids, clearly not favoring either option. But ultimately, he hunched his shoulders and tagged along after Lizzie. I went to play with the other kids, too. You followed after Lizzie and Cove, who were waiting for you on the outskirts of the group of the parents. Hurry up! You picked up the pace, moving into a jog, but when Lizzie pelted away at full speed, you and Cove had no choice but to break out into a run. The other kids were far into the field. Still at your speed, it wasn't long until you reached them. As you approached, they turned around to greet the newcomers.
Hi.
I'm Lizzie. That's my little brother Spyro Kid, the one with the Castus Cove. You offered to smile. Cove simply lifted a hand in greeting. There was a chorus of hellos and names from the other kids. One of the kids looked to be about Lizzie's age or older. A couple seemed to be the same age as you and Cove, and there was one tiny little thing with his arms folded over his chest. What are you up to? The first kid, a boy with curly black hair and neon green sneakers, who had introduced himself as Hayden, shrugged as he looked to the others. Not much. The second kid to pipe up, Lisa, had half her face obscured behind the huge glasses behind the huge glasses she wore. We haven't decided yet. She glanced wistfully over her shoulder. Following her gaze, he saw the spray of water first, and heard the shriek as someone got splashed in the face, before you spotted the person shooting them. Some people are playing with water guns, but there aren't any left. The smallest kid, Noah, grumbled at that. You guessed that was why he was sulking. Spencer hadn't said much, patted his shoulder. So that's out. A new kid raced over, with a glint in her eyes and her braids streaming behind her. You spotted the plastic orange pistol in her hand too late, when the trigger had already been pressed. Ah! Rude! Hey! Lizzie, who had been caught first, was fuming. Cove wiped the water from his face. He rubbed at your ear, trying to dislodge the water that pooled there. I laughed. It was pretty funny, and you were unhurt by the water trickling down your neck. The girl simply darted off to find more victims, unaffected by your reaction. She doesn't mean anything by it. Lizzie tottered, flickering her hair out of her face. The girl not meaning anything by it didn't change the fact that she'd been sprayed. Cove looked similarly unimpressed. Lisa's face lit up as she had an idea. Hey, we should catch her! She won't be able to spray people if she's running away from everybody. Yeah! Cove nodded as the other kids murmured their interest, or lack of it, in the game. What do I do here? Okay. You joined the group of kids in tearing off after the girl with the pistol. Spotted you all over her shoulder, she laughed and shot her pistol in the air. Only a couple drops squeezed out. She swerved, causing discord within your team as someone stood on your foot and you collided with Cove's shoulder. Sorry. Cove shot you a smile that gave you a feeling of camaraderie. It's okay. You were closing in on the girl, but you weren't alone. Lizzie's face was set with intent, and the two older kids were hot on her heels too. I outran them with effort. I was kind of really fast. You pushed yourself, willing your legs to move just that bit faster. You were close, and then you tackled her to the ground. You did it! The girl had been caught giggled as she got to her feet, brushing off strands of grass from her knees. Smiling, Cove came to a stop at your side. Lizzie whipped with delight, clapping her hands. The boy with the bright sneakers grinned. You're it now. Catch us if you can. Yeah! I'll do it. You won't get away from me. With that, you all dispersed, squealing and laughing as you tried to evade capture. The sour mood from earlier had evaporated entirely, replaced by a light and playful atmosphere. Several rounds later, when most of the kids had taken at least one turn of it, the scent of smoke wafted up to your nose. Caught by surprise, you looked up and found that the brilliant blue of the sky had turned orange as the sun sunk down on the horizon. With all that excitement, you've lost track of time completely. Looking over, you saw people standing over the grills and poking them to life. It was nearly time to eat. We should get over there. I'm so hungry. Our parents are at different spots. Yeah. Bye. It was cool playing. Yep. Bye. You waved goodbye to the other group of kids before hurrying over to your parents with Lizzie and Cove. A tickle unfurled in your throat, growing more persistent as you came closer to the source of the smoke. As the three of you approached the tables, your parents spotted you and came to join you halfway. You tried to greet them, but another cough obstructed your words. Woof, that's quite a cough. Are you alright, sweetie? I'm fine. Are you sure? No one needs to go up to the grills if they don't want to. Just let me know what you need. No, I'm coughing. There was no response from the other two kids here. I can do it. Alright, but tell me if it gets too much for you.
So?
The main thing being served is kebabs. You can have whatever you'd like on it. There's different meats and vegetables. As you approached, you found the vast array of bits and pieces, ready to be skewered and served up. Chose... let's see. I like beef, onions, chicken's nice. I guess potatoes. Pork. I guess pork. And that's it. Sounds good to me. The veggies will be good for you. Order given, you waited for your food to be ready. Lizzie headed towards you, having issued her own request. Hi again. I heard what you ordered. I'm getting chicken kebab of all 3 colors of peppers. Noticing that Cove approached, she turned to him. What are you having?
Why?
Why does it matter? I don't know. I was just asking. I'm getting beef and shrimp with all the vegetables, except onions. Lizzie hummed while evaluating fonts. That's okay, I guess. But chicken is definitely the better one. Then you can eat all the chicken. I'm going to. Jesus. All the chicken in the world?
No.
That's dumb. You know what I mean. Lizzie peered over to the grills where the kebabs were being handed out. A growing assortment of kebabs collected in your parents' hands. They're coming over. Don't get jealous of mine when you realize you made the wrong choice, Cove. I didn't make the wrong choice. We all make good choices. It's just what kebab somebody eats. The person serving gave your mommy one final kebab, then your parents moved over to rejoin you. Between them, they were carrying 6 kebabs, one for each of you, including Cove and Mr. Holden. We've got the goods. Cove's daddy is looking for places we can sit. In the meantime, they began passing out the kebabs to their rightful owners. Lizzie smiled smugly as she received hers. These are pretty big. Be careful not to drop it. Try not to poke yourself to the ends either. They're sharper than you might think. Hearing that, you tentatively pushed the tip of the skewer against your finger. It felt like the point of a newly sharpened pencil. Though it didn't hurt your hand, you wouldn't want it scraping the roof of your mouth or jabbing your tongue. Mommy, collect your tongue? It would have been nice if the options were a little easier to manage and less messy to eat, especially for smaller kids. There aren't even plates for everyone, so we can set the food down for a second.
True.
That's what you get for the price of free, but we can hack it, right? Lizzie nodded her head vigorously, clutching her kebab like a trophy. Your parents led you back to the tables. It was immediately evident why Mr. Holden had been sent out to scout one out. The benches had quickly filled up as people got their food. Mr. Holden was standing over a corner section near the edges of the sitting area. He beckoned your group over to join him. You clambered onto the bench, taking care not to let your kebab slip from your fingers. Cove took a seat next to you. Lizzie took the other side. Your mom passed the final unclaimed kebab to Mr. Holden.
Thank you.
This looks delicious. Thank you for getting us a space out here. Everyone tucked into their food. You gobbled it up eagerly, only partly obstructed by the awkwardness of eating from a skewer. Running around with the other kids that helped you work up an appetite. Mr. Holden, what do you do?
Well,
I do a lot of things. Do you play golf? Only if you count mini golf. One look at Lizzie's stricken face confirmed that she did not. She can enjoy the occasional round of mini golf plays, especially she had an audience to impress. But your sister took her passion very seriously. Even then, it's been years since I gave it a shot. Cove groaned at the fribble pun. Mom chuckled. You weren't sure if she was responding to the joke, Cove's annoyance, or Lizzie's offense.
Don't worry about it.
Just as well. She'd been dragging you to the green every week. That's because I got dedication. You need a good drive or two to get far. Mr. Holden nodded, clicking his tongue in appreciation. Cove looked from his father to your sister, lost in the conversation. Outclassed in golf and wit. I don't get it. Or golf stuff. You should give real golf a try. Maybe I'll even teach you some tricks. Don't try to change my dad to be more like you. Oh my. Lizzie gave Cove a dirty look at the accusation. Mommy felt the need to move the topic ahead before it got heated.
Oh, nice.
That's really sweet of you, but I'm sure Mr. Holden is busy. He might not have time for another hobby. Yeah, I don't think I'm made for that. Still, the offer is appreciated.
Why?
Then tell me something you really do already. You just go away every day. I like scuba diving. Though with the business, that's more work than play these days. Surfing and reading. Snorkeling. Wow, it's a good thing you live by the beach. Don't I know it? I have nightmares about moving inland.
No way.
Not a good joke. The sun had been setting when you had gotten your food, and by the time you finished, night had truly fallen. Your sticky fingers were the only remaining evidence of your meal. The kebab had been a great combination, more than the sum of its parts. The seasoning of freedom, to choose every ingredient yourself, was what made it something to remember. Rising from the table, Mommy held up her water bottle. Okay, now that the food is gone, you've got to wash your hands.
Okay.
Fire Kid, Lizzie, please hold them out. Lizzie complied, coming over and cupping her hands together in front of her. Mommy splashed some water over her fingers and Lizzie rubbed them together, working off any residue. Here. Mom passed her a paper towel from her purse, and Lizzie used it to dry off her hands. Your turn, Fire Kid. You readily held your hands out to catch the water. Copying Lizzie, you washed your hands, taking care to clean every crevice between your fingers before wiping them dry. Nearby, Cove had taken his own course of action, wiping his hands on his pants and leaving a stain where his fingers had been. Mr. Holden shook his head.
Come on.
Let's clean it off, pal. He scrubbed at the fabric with a scrunched up napkin. Dad, it's not that bad. When everyone was cleaned up, or as clean as they could be, with the limited facilities, Mom spoke up.
Let's go.
Let's go make one last check at the coolers and restock on drinks before the fireworks show. No time! We have to get a good spot. Everywhere's going to be taken. How about I go ahead and save space again? You can meet up with me in the field after getting the drinks. Then I'm going to Cove's dad. I'll find the perfect place.
Okay.
Sure thing. I could use an extra pair of eyes. Mommy shook her head ruefully at Lizzie's even more enthusiastic than usual attitude.
That's fine.
Alright. Me, Cliff, and Lizzie can go find a place to sit. Pam, Cove, and Spyro Kid, you want to go get the drinks? Okay. I nodded. As Mommy, Lizzie, and Mr. Holden headed off into the wild, open field where the fireworks were being set up, you joined Cove and Mom in returning to the cooler where you had picked up drinks earlier. Even as you approached, you suspected that it wouldn't find much in it, where it had originally been stocked to the brim. It was now half empty. The ice, which had cushioned the drinks and kept them cool, was largely melted, with only a handful of pieces floating like tiny icebergs. Slim pickings. Drinks that remained looked to be bottles of plain water, but you caught a glimpse of something more colorful in amongst them. Mom rummaged around in the cooler, excavating a couple of juice boxes from the bottom in the process. Spyro Kid, Cove, you can take one of those if you want. The perks of helping. I took a juice box to share and a water bottle for myself. Cove hesitated, but decided to take a juice box for himself. When you were each loaded up with your chosen drink, plus an extra bottle or two for someone else in the group, Mom's phone started to ring. She juggled the water bottles over in the crook of her arm and looked at the caller. It's Mommy. Hold tight while I get this.
How are you?
Hey, hun. How's it going? Did you find your perfect spot already? She nodded along to the call, punctuated by ahas, as Mommy gave her directions. Catching her eye, she gestured towards the grassy area. We've got a place. Come on, we better hurry before the show starts. You and Cove jogged after your mom, who led you through the field, and the separate groups of people assembled there. Back to the rest of your families.
Hello.
We're here, and we come bearing drinks, though there wasn't much left. The three of you handed over the spare drinks. You held up the extra juice box. I brought this for someone.
How sweet.
You're so thoughtful, Spyro Kid. Oh, stop. Despite Mommy replying pretty expectantly, there was just one person who made a claim to the sweet drink. Can I have it? Okay.
Thank you.
I love you, Spyro Kid. Ah, you two are a real pair. Once everyone had been equipped with a drink for the big event, you sat on the grass beside Cove and waited for the magic to begin. Most people in the park had taken a seat now, with a few stragglers silhouetted back at the tables in the distance. A few rambunctious kids were still dashing about, but their number was steadily decreasing as their parents called them over and restored order. Someone bearing a cardboard box weaved between the groups, pausing every so often. You nudged Cove and pointed. What are they doing? Looks like they're handing something out. I can't make out what it is.
What a pickle.
I hope it's not drinks. Mommy chuckled, but Lizzie and Cove were now watching the bestow of mystery goods keenly. Are they gonna come to us too? Mom softly put her hands on top of your sister's shoulders, as if she feared Lizzie might bolt over to the stranger. Lizzie didn't even glance at her, eyes locked on the potential prize. I don't know.
In that case,
We'll have to wait and see. I was intrigued, studying the man with the box closely as he gradually meandered nearer. You could make out that he was handing out small items to most of the groups he had stopped at. They seemed too short to be water bottles, but beyond that it remained a mystery. Then the box man made his way to your group. Evening. I'm handing out dessert. Any takers? There's dessert? Lizzie squealed, hopping up the ground. The man chuckled. I'm gonna take that as a yes. Ice cream's on the menu, vanilla flavored with a twist of either chocolate or strawberry syrup.
Nice.
Not for me though, thanks. Same, but the offer's appreciated. I want chocolate. Could I have strawberry? And a strawberry for me too, please. Now you're going to have to make a decision, chocolate or strawberry. I'm gonna get chocolate. Reaching into the box, the man brought out the requested ice creams and tossed them out. It came packaged in a little plastic cup, complete with a wooden spoon stuck to the paper lid. The condensation wet your fingers in a pleasant way.
thank you.
Kids, are you gonna thank the nice man too? There were a chorus of thanks. He accordingly nodded and walked off to another group. The man couldn't spend much time with each group, considering how much he had to get to. Peeled back the tab that covered the ice cream and got right into your unexpected treat. Tasted amazing. Lizzie was definitely enjoying hers. Cove was too. You couldn't help thinking about how Cove had strawberry while you had chocolate. Want a bite of mine? He looked around awkwardly, but nodded nevertheless. You caught a bit of ice cream, making sure to hit the chocolate swirl that distinguished it from Cove's, and held it out to him. He nibbled at it. You want some of mine? Yeah. He scooped out a chunk of ice cream with his wooden spoon before holding it out to you. Took it gladly, and it was gone to one bite.
Oh.
Mommy was glazing at the two of you. Her mouth was an open smile, as if he was about to say something else. But Mom tugged on her collar. Don't embarrass them. Hey, if you're sharing, I'll take some. You don't need it. You both have the same flavor.
So?
So what? You can have some. Thank you, thank you, thank you! You're the best! She enthusiastically took a bite of your ice cream before then offering you a bite of hers in exchange. In the end, that kind of made it pointless. You each just You each just ate the same chocolate ice cream out of different cups. Your mommy did like to say it was the thought that counted, though. Ignoring that conundrum, Lizzie turned her attention back to her own cup of ice cream. Lizzie munched away happily, but it ultimately didn't succeed in monopolizing her attention. Eyes wide, she looked at her mommy and pulled on her pants.
Please!
I didn't get strawberry. Can I have some of yours, please?
Of course.
Lizzie cooed with excitement as Mommy presented her with a dollop of the ice cream and syrup mixture. Licking her lips, Lizzie lapped it up. Mommy, come on now. Lizzie has all the ice cream she needs. She simply laughed and pinched Lizzie's cheek, then dug her spoon in again and held it out to you. I just couldn't resist. Spyro Kid, would you like some of mine? He's got a whole cup of ice cream to eat already and a bite of Cove's and Lizzie's. I think that's plenty. But that's not the same as getting a little extra from your mommy. You accepted the bite. You ate the treat being offered, much to Mom's charge and Mommy's delight. Cove watched the exchange silently with a blank expression. Mom, on the other hand, shook her head, a fond smile on her face. Well, you better at least give me some too. You could have gotten your own if you wanted ice cream.
What?
The kids have ice cream already, and they're getting some of yours to boot, and I have nothing. Now, now is when you decide to be firm. Laughing, Mommy fed some ice cream to your sulking mom.
There.
But, excuse me, she could have never actually followed through with being tough. I keep pressing the button, but I have it on my fingers.
There.
All better now. Yes. Good. How about you, Cliff? Would you like some? No, I'm still okay, but thanks for keeping me in mind. Cove, it's only fair that you get the choice too. Cove shook his head firmly, concentrating on his own cup. Mommy smiled. Okay, as long as no one's feeling left out. Mommy was always so nice to everyone. Then, the first firework cut through the sky, whistling as it descended until it hits crescendo with an explosion. The park flashed as if it alight. Squealing, Lizzie leapt to her feet, her forgotten ice cream tumbling to the ground as the firework crackled into tiny drops of glitter in the sky. It's starting! Everyone else looked up to the sky as if another firework whizzed through the air. With much explosion, Lizzie would jump into the air. Excuse me! The loud noises hurt your ears. You covered them with your hands. Spotting in your discomfort, yeah, I always did have a problem with loud sounds when I was younger. Kinda made me uncomfortable. Spotting your discomfort, Mom came to sit behind you. She placed her own hands over your ears, further muffling the cacophony from above. Soothed, you quietly watched the spectacle. I do like looking at the lights. Having Mom with you made you feel better. It didn't seem bad to take in the fireworks while she was around. Cove shuffled close, his worried eyes flashing back to you with every new explosion in the sky. Mommy's gaze was on you, and then your parents made eye contact. Mom gestured with her hand to silently say things were fine there. Mommy smiled, then hopped to her feet and joined Lizzie in jumping up in tandem with every crack of a firework. They had a little party together. Mr. Holden watched the fireworks scene impassively. He did smile at you, and even gave a thumbs up when he noticed you looking over. The fireworks continue, with some twisting like the coil of a spring as they arched into the air. Others shooting straight from the ground and shattering into a million tiny specks. Every color got the spotlight in the show, from fiery reds, eerie greens, and blues that could rival the ocean. You eventually noticed that at some point Mr. Holden had let Cove perch atop his shoulders. I don't know why I'm yawning. Probably too much talking. Or more likely, Cove had to be persuaded to give it a try. Still, Cove's face was covered with a wide smile that matched his father's own. You imagine the view from way up there was pretty impressive. It was also nice to see, and also nice that they were getting along for once. The show built up to a grand finale that boomed over the park and filled every inch of the sky, the twinkling lights representing the full spectrum of the rainbow. As the final glittering embers dissolving into the night, you release a deep breath. The afterimage was still burned onto your retinas, leaping up behind your eyelids with every blink. Within a minute, the image had been lost, but it was burned deeper into your mind. You had been so focused on the show that your foot had gone numb beneath you, and it was only when you attempted to stand that you felt the tingling sensation of blood rushing back to your toes. Cope was on the ground again. You flashed him with a grin, which he immediately matched. Getting to share that experience with a friend made a fun night even better. Though the sun had gone down long ago, the air from on your bare arms was warm. You took in your giddy family, their spirits buoyed by the fireworks display. Then you knew a friend and his father who looked happy in their own quieter way and smiled. This had been a pretty special night. Alright, that's the end of that moment. Just gonna take a quick break. Just gonna eat a few bars just to stuff my stomach. Don't go away, we'll be right back. welcome back everybody from the break. Alright, Omega, what should we do next? The moments we have left is shopping, grown up, long day, sandcastle, fireflies, library, runaway, sleepover, or end the step. What should we do? Omega, are you there?
Rithoff Omega 666. Firefly.
Okay.
But gonna crash in a few, so I'll catch you next time.
Alright, no worries. Thanks for coming in and taking the time to watch, much appreciated. Tomorrow I believe we will do Dragon Quest.
NP.
Thank you once again. Have a good night, Alright, let's go with this here.
Alright!
Oh, bye. Alright, tonight we're gonna catch fireflies.
Rithoff Omega 666. You too.
Okay. At this point, declaration from your sister, you looked up from your macaroni and cheese dinner. Fireflies were a familiar sight over the summer, coming out on warm nights to dance through the sky. Tonight was particularly balmy. You knew there were bound to be a ton of them around. Oh, you are you? Okay, I started eating faster. A grin curved your lips as you started to eat a bit faster, excited for what was to come. Seemed like you were too excited, however, as you started to choke and cough on your food from shoveling it down so quickly. Mommy reached over to pat you on the back, firmly helping to dislodge the noodles and enable you to breathe again. You took a big gulp of water from your glass, giving your moms a sheepish look. Oops. That's a good idea, Lizzie. And we Mrs. Dragon. Shiloh tapped his fork against the table excitedly, his face lighting up as he looked at Lizzie. It was unusual for Shiloh to still be here. Like always, his mom had to bring him over really early in the morning before her job started. But normally, she would have picked him up by now. She called before dinner to let your moms know she'd be late. You didn't hear why, probably more work things. You thought maybe getting to hang out with Shiloh for longer is what made Lizzie want to keep running around outside. Staying at home watching TV was never an option for her with guests over. That's why you were pretty sure she'd get your moms to agree. It's already so dark out there. Lizzie gave Mom the best puppy dog eyes she could, slowly spinning mac and cheese into her mouth while you waited there for their response.
There.
Let them go. Nights like this don't happen every day. Your parents exchanged a look, then Mom eventually sighed and nodded back. Yes! Along with Lizzie's cheers, you threw your arms up in triumph, but waited until you finished chewing to say anything because you knew it was rude to talk with your mouth full.
Fine.
Fine. Just make sure you stay on the hill beside our house with all the puppies, okay?
Duh.
That's where most of them are. The idea had only just been planted in your head, but already you could just picture all the glowing lights spread out in front of you, like the fairies from the bedtime stories Mommy read sometimes. All too quickly became a race to see who could finish their food first. No choking at the dinner table now. That's right, if someone died, we'd have to cancel the Firefly trip after all. Mom said it like a joke, but you knew that they were both telling you kids to slow down. Shiloh did immediately. When you glanced at Lizzie, you saw her still eating faster than she should. Elizabeth?
Jeez.
No one's gonna die, sheesh. A knock on the door interrupted Mom before she could, no doubt, scold your sister. I'll get it. Your big sister jumped out of her seat and ran over to the door, pulling it open without even looking out the window to see who it was.
Huh?
You shifted in your seat to try to get a glimpse of the unexpected guest.
Hi.
Good evening, Cove. Your mommy had already walked to the door by the time you managed to see past Shiloh's flappy hat. A big smile stretched across your face. When you lifted your hand and waved, Cove's pink cast went up to return it shortly after. A moment here. It didn't matter why he was there. It meant that he could join you all in catching fireflies. Then for a few seconds, Cove said nothing. He only stood there and looked up at your mommy with a face almost like it was considering turning around and leaving. My dad told me to drop this off because I guess he borrowed it from you. Cove took a familiar screwdriver from out of his large side pocket, eyes now dropped to the floor. We left ours back home when we moved. Great, thanks, bye!
Thank you.
Thank you, here, excuse me. Here, why don't you come inside for a bit? Lizzie crossed her arms and lifted her chin. Cove shrugged, and Mom stood from the table too. I'll give your dad a call to let him know that you got here alright. Cove shuffled fully inside, eyes remaining on the ground. Mommy closed the door behind him.
Hi.
Shiloh gave Cove a friendly smile while waving by holding up his hand and opening and closing his fingers. Whoops.
Hi.
Or Cove nodded in response. You could come inside with us if you want to. From the corner of your eye, you could see Lizzie glaring at you for mentioning the excursion to an outsider. Trying not to meet her gaze, he looked at Cove. Whatever Lizzie thought of him, he wasn't exactly a stranger anymore. We're gonna catch fireflies on the hill out back. He said that with a smile, hoping Cove would want to come.
Yeah.
I can do that. I've never caught one before. It's too bad that he didn't have a chance before now. The fireflies weren't out when he first moved in, and there must not have been anywhere he used to live. We can't go until after dinner. As she pointed this out, Lizzie walked back to the table and took her seat. There wasn't much left on her plate. Since this was very true, you decided to finish up your own stuff as well. Cove stepped closer and eyed what was on the menu for your family's meal. Have you eaten yet? Yeah, my dad and I ate earlier. What did you have? Eggs. The clipped one-word answer seemed to discourage Shiloh from asking any more questions. His eyes slowly wandered back to the last scraps of food on his plate. Her phone call with Cove's dad must have ended because her mom came back into the room.
Okay.
Cove, your dad said you can stay here for a little while if you like, but he's going to come and get you before it gets too much later. Sure.
Fun.
Oh, fun. This will be so nice. As you polished off the meal, you hoped it would be too. The three of you all finished eating shortly after, and Lizzie led the way outside. Remember, don't stray too far. It's fine, Mom. Shiloh trailed so closely after Lizzie he was nearly stepping on her heels. Cove hesitated at the door. He smiled lightly at Cove, gesturing for him to follow. After a moment, he did.
Bye.
The two of you were a good 10 or 15 feet behind Lizzie and Shiloh by the time you walked outside. You pushed the door shut behind you, watching their fingers get farther and farther away.
Hurry up!
So slow, Spire Kid. We don't have all night. You started to run when you heard Lizzie's voice calling you, but paused when you saw Cove still walking at a relaxed pace. I walked with him. You fell behind, sliding up to next to him, matching his stride. He noticed right away.
It's okay.
You can go ahead if you want. Smile and shake your head. After a short while, the two of you reached the hill behind the house. The fireflies were out in full force, floating on the breeze, their gentle glow winking in and out, creating an almost magical effect. Lizzie had already climbed to the top. Shiloh was spinning in circles somewhere around the middle.
Wow.
Shiloh took a moment to come over and welcome the both of you to the hill. Hi, guys. Really great out, huh? See how many there are? Yeah. A firefly danced through the air, landing on Cove's siege green head. Me and Shiloh can help but giggle. Covering your mouth with a hand, the sound escaped you, and Cove looked at you in confusion. What?
Oh.
Look! Lizzie has one. That's amazing. Shiloh ran to the highest point of the hill, making sure not to lose his hat or backpack along the way. You humped as the group divided and conquered, shifting your gaze to the dozens of other fireflies sailing around. The game was on. I was good not getting cuts or scratches, so I wasn't too worried about it. Finding one close by, you approached it with assassin-like stealth, crouching down to make yourself seem like less of a threat. Slowly dragging one foot in front of the other, you crept up towards it, arms outstretched. You closed your hands around the little glowing orb, careful not to crush it. The firefly landed on your palm, almost docile, and you stared down at your prize in delight. Its tiny legs tickled your skin, and you giggled at the sensation. Cove kept up with his own target, but when he tried to grab it, his pink cast waved awkwardly throughout the air, foiling his efforts to clap his hands around the firefly. Cove watched it vanish into thin air with a dissatisfied expression on his face. I encouraged him to try again. You walked up beside and gave him an encouraging smile. Did you catch one? You nodded, and Cove gave up his hunt for the moment, coming closer and peering at the insect still crawling across your palm. You held out your hand as he leaned closer, eyes widening a tad behind his glasses. Cove remained hypnotized by the little bug as he inched his hand closer to yours. Ultimately, he settled his fingers lightly over top of the ones you were holding open. It tingled. I stayed very still. You were so nervous that you thought you stopped breathing, but no matter what you didn't want to scare the shiny treasure. The firefly, noticing the new connection, crawled up onto Cove's hand. He quietly gasped. It worked. Yeah, you got one. Cove's lips turned up into a slow smile, and his eyes shined brighter than the bug. Thanks, Spire Kid. With a laugh he gave, the palm of your hand had a friendly smack performing an awkwardly low high five. Startled by the extreme movement, the tiny light disappeared before you could even blink. Your firefly was gone.
Sorry.
Oops. That's okay. I can keep it forever.
You're right.
Bugs have to stay outside. Let's get another. I decided to collect more. We can work together. His face broke out into a wide grin. Look at a bunch. With renewed vigor, you ran out into the hill. You're not sure how much time passed while you were in the thick of it. All you could focus on was the adventure at hand. No critter was safe from your grasp. At first, you tried to keep a tally of how many you had caught, but once the number grew higher than 10, you had no more fingers left to count with. You were having the time of your life, racing up and down the hill with the crash of the ocean and the sound of everyone's laughter echoing in the background. Spire Kid, this way! You followed the sound of Cove's voice to the top of the hill, watching as he stretched his arms in front of him, reaching with his fingers and only narrowly missing his target. Cove and you took turns trying to scare fireflies in the direction of the other. You showed him some techniques that you had learned, like how to cup your hands correctly, and he listened attentively before trying for himself. There were a few times when you almost ran into each other, giggling as you dove into the side at the last moment. Luckily, disaster was avoided each time. It was overall a huge success, with the both of you catching multiple fireflies each. Eventually, the fireflies began to thin out and your energy started to lapse. You decided it was time to call off the hunt. Cove didn't complain. He breathed in heavily and his face seemed really flushed. It was fun. A lot of fun. He smiled at him broadly, happy that he enjoyed the activity. Yeah, it was.
Come on!
Spire Kid, Cove, get up here. We're gonna have a race. The shouting caught you off guard, and it had been quite a while since you heard from Lizzie or Shiloh. You glanced over to see both of them standing on top of the hill again. Lizzie beckoning to you, quick hand gestures. If she was like that, you knew that there wasn't much room for disagreement. Up the incline you went. From the corner of your eye, you saw Cove was coming up as well. He didn't care for Lizzie a lot, so you thought he might be intrigued just by the idea of a race. Hi.
Cove.
Hi. You can't roll down the hill. You could hurt your arm again. You'll be the referee for the rest of us. As Lizzie pointed this out, Cove froze in place. Oh, it was that kind of race. He frowned down at his cast. This was the second time he got in the way tonight. What? Yeah, you'll watch and see who gets to the bottom first. That's important. Got it?
I guess.
The cast was sturdy. If he was careful, he could have done it. Lizzie might have just been looking for a reason to make someone else the referee. But it was already decided. Feel bad for Cove. I'll stay with him.
Really?
Why? You don't have to. It's okay. I want to watch. You moved beside him on top of the hill, even though Lizzie eyed you and made a face. That's not how races work. We only need one referee. Shrugging your shoulders, you refused to budge, and Lizzie let out a huff before throwing her hands in the air. Fine, I'll be the winner, whether you join or not. Lizzie moved to lay down, and Shiloh did the same. Cove stood slightly to the side to get a better vantage point, and you stood next to him. Countdown! Cove stood up a little straighter. It seemed like he was taking his newfound referee duties seriously. 3, 2, 1, go! Lizzie and Shiloh took off, letting gravity do the work and rolling at high speed towards the bottom of the hill. You and Cove leaned forward to watch them go, eyes peeled for which of the two would reach the bottom first. They were both neck and neck, until about halfway down the hill, Lizzie started to veer off to the side, giving Shiloh a huge advantage. She obviously hadn't noticed a thing, and as soon as Shiloh reached the bottom of the hill, he jumped up excitedly and threw his hands in the air. I won! Almost immediately, he fell back up onto the grass, still dizzy from his roll down the hill. Lizzie stumped out of the bush, and she had ended up in, bluttering angrily and brushing leaves from the front of her dress. Not bad, you got lucky. Let's do it again, see who wins for real. Kids, it's time to come in. No! You snickered, feeling grateful that you hadn't been a part in the mini debacle. You caught Cove's eyes and saw that he was doing the same. It had gotten late and was beginning to feel just a bit chilly as you made your way out of the hills. But the cold in the air hadn't dampened anyone's spirits. The four of you walked back home together side by side, your neighborhood street, discussing the evening, with each person trying to prove that they were the one who caught the most fireflies. You knew that whoever really did catch the most didn't matter much anyway. All that mattered was that you had a good time, which judging by the smiles in everyone's faces, you did. Alright. Much fun. Just save here. Yeah. Alright, that's gonna be it for today. Some of my friends have gotten online. But we'll return with this at some point. That was part 1 of Our Life, Beginning and Always, part 1. Derek's Route. Thank you guys for watching. Thank you, Rafa and Maker, for coming in and watching and supporting. Eventually we'll get to Derek's part. He'll end up in step 2. Just to know. Alright, thank you guys for watching. I'm Spyro Kid. We'll see you guys next time.